What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I am Jabril, and I am with
Steve. How you guys doing?
And for you guys who haven't seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, and we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, what have you been playing?
So, still on that grind from last week we discussed. So, I put down Smash Brothers because I got not bored of it, but I was just like fizzled out. So, playing a lot of Mortal Kombat. You know, the DLC hasn't launched yet. That's May 26th, but I'm getting good at it, which I was kind of surprised actually, because I was kind of going in there just for getting trophies, and then like slowly I just like relearned the mechanics, and I went like 20 wins in a row online.
Wow.
So
you're
like,
back.
Yeah, I'm kind of like back. I'm unlocking pieces left and right, and that's in addition to almost getting I'm hoping to get the plat before the DLC. So just been doing that really, and then the only other things I've been playing, just little things I've been playing. It's funny because I put Smash Brothers down and I actually picked up PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Really? What a transition.
Man, first a PSA. People, the PS3s are they're dying. My PS3 did not want to, for the life of it, connect to the internet to update it. So it would be connected. I had it even wired all the way. Everything's golden. Every time I would go to update it, it would boot out and just like self-destruct. Like it would shut down on me. Eventually, I did get it rolling, and man, that game was made with no passion. After going from like Smash Brothers, which is just so full of like Easter eggs and passion and all the music and stuff like that, and then I launched that up, and like the main menu looks just like boring. It's like, oh god, they didn't do this with any sort of love. And then I looked at the character roster, and there's people I don't even remember. They must have been DLC after I had been stopped playing. Zeus is in there. I didn't even know Zeus was a character.
Really? Like,
yeah.
What, God of War Zeus?
Yeah. Like, he's just in there as a character. I'm like,
when did they add him? I don't remember that.
Isaac from Dead Space is in there. I was like,
oh, wow.
I was like, what? I'm just looking at the roster. I remember Kat from Gravity Rush. I think she was the first DLC. And I think Big Daddy was always in the game. But then from BioShock, but then I was just looking at Zeus, and he just looks so weird, and the mechanics are fine for the most part, and it's like, man, they were copying Smash Brothers, but they didn't just copy it enough, and then they just didn't really go for it, and then it's very lackluster. It's not too bad actually. It's kind of fun again because the characters are like, some of the characters are okay. Spike is pretty cool. The guy from Medieval is fun to play as, and you have Jack, Ratchet, and all them. But then you go back and then you look, they have the two Coles. You have good Cole and bad Cole, which is literally just blue Cole and red Cole from Infamous.
Just a skin swap?
No, he's his own character. He's very Dr. Mario in Smash.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is like, they're the exact same characters, but I was like, ugh. So that's really all I've been really splitting my time between is those two games. Sprinkled in with a few other things. I go in, I actually played a little bit of the Call of Duty Warzone finally.
Oh, okay.
Tried that Battle Royale. It's fine. I mean, it's exactly what you would think it is, Call of Duty Battle Royale. This one is a little bit like they all obviously have their own spice to it, their own flavor. In a sense, like Fortnite has, it's very goofy, and Fortnite is pretty much the king of Battle Royales right now. Apex is cool. I like the characters in it, and being in the Titanfall universe is cool. Call of Duty, the shooting, no one ever does shooting better than them, so it feels so good. And because when you grab a Call of Duty game, you know what to push. So it's not like I have to learn how to build things and do all the weird Apex special stuff. So it's a little bit simpler to get into, but it has a lot of mechanics actually, like the coming back mechanic and the reviving mechanic and stuff like that is pretty fun. But that's all I've been really playing, is just kind of sprinkling things out around there and just trying some new stuff while we wait for some new games coming out. What have you been playing?
Yeah, so I haven't really taken on anything new since last week. I've been really, really focusing on Final Fantasy IX. After I told you guys about the little debacle I went through with Final Fantasy VIII, so I'm much deeper into Final Fantasy IX. I'm pretty deep into Disc 3 at this point, so I'm on the latter half of the game for sure. I'm fairly deep into it, and man, I love this game front to back, everything about it. I'm breezing through it because this is one of the Final Fantasy games I probably know the best, top to bottom. Like I know Final Fantasy 6 decently well. 7 I know like the first half really well. 8 I didn't know at all, but 9 is the one that I grew up with and I played the most. So I'm pretty familiar with the kind of like trajectory of where you're going and the order in which to do it and what stuff you can skip and what stuff you should invest your time into. And yeah, man, it's just a really, really great time, and I just everything about it I love, just everything to the characters, and it's one of those things that I'm like catching a lot now that I definitely did not catch when I was much younger, which is kind of like the small dynamics between each of the characters and their relationships, and the very subtle commentary between certain characters, and the subtle romances going on, and some of the stuff that they play up as a joke, but then some of the stuff that's very understated but at the same time very endearing at the time. So there's something about the writing of this game is just fantastic. And for you guys who haven't played it yet, it's available on everything, and it actually just dropped on Game Pass too. So if you're an Xbox player and you have Game Pass, go. There's nothing stopping you from jumping in there. It's the same version across all the systems, so you don't have to worry about like one system having a better version than the others. This one has all the upgrades, triple speed if you want. It has like battle and counter help. It has max damage if you really want to breeze through it. I'm not doing all that, but the triple speed really helps. But the funny thing about Final Fantasy IX is it already had faster navigation than pretty much all the previous entries.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you put on the triple speed thing and you press the run button at the same time, bro, like, you think Sonic is fast. Like, holy crap, I'm playing this, you could barely control him. It's like Sonic 06 when they run it on PC and mod it to move faster. It's like that. Like, you're just bashing into walls, everything. But hey, I mean, if you want to play it fast, you can do that. It's excellent when if you need to backtrack through an area you've been through already.
Exactly,
But man, I'm just having a great time with that, and it makes me all the more excited to jump into 10, because that transition's a really interesting one, because 9 was the end of an era for sure, where the original creator dropped off, and then 10 was the transition from that point. And now that the previous entries are so fresh in my mind, I'm curious to see how that feel is going forward, what carries on, which doesn't. So I'll probably be on Final Fantasy X probably within the next week, if not the week after than that. And then for a couple minutes, I tried out something that recently dropped on Switch, Elder Scrolls Blades, I believe it's called. Yeah, this game has been out for a bit now. It was an iOS and Android game, if I'm not mistaken, first. And so it finally dropped on Switch, and I'm like, all right, it's free. There's no investment, up front. Let me just give this a try. Let me see what they're going for, because I did not play it on my phone. And I'm kind of like of two minds on it. On one hand, it's a free game, and it requires no upfront investment. So, to an extent, you can be forgiving with some of the shortcomings of this game. But at the same time, if you want to look at things as objective as possible, like, the game's very out of place on Switch. And the main reason for that is that Skyrim on Switch exists, and it's not that expensive. So you get the full featured experience on the same console that you have this weird, watered-down version. And this is not like a Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition type situation where no, this is a very straightforward dungeon crawler. The gameplay is not that interesting. It's very mobile oriented, gacha game type mechanics. And it's just not that great. I suppose I could see why somebody would want to jump onto this if they wanted like a very casual experience. Like, they just want to get more gear and level up, but they're not that interested in lore and really engaging gameplay. But again, I guess for the free gamer, it's cool, but for anyone else that's looking for anything remotely interesting, I don't really get why this game exists. It's like a weird thing. Like, for example, simple things like you press R and you slash is not really the case in Elder Scrolls Blades, because it's originally designed with touchscreens. You actually press the button and that kind of winds the arm back, and then you release it and it goes forward. And it's kind of like a time-based thing where you're kind of parrying and then attacking and blocking, but the AI of the enemies is, predictable is an understatement. You can see when they're about to attack. You just raise your shield real quick. It's a very casual experience. Maybe it gets more difficult later in the game. I didn't make it super deep in there, but it was peculiar to play on Switch, because again, I don't know why they brought it here when the full Skyrim experience exists on this console. I don't get why anyone would really jump into Blades unless, again, you're looking for any free experience you can get. Then I say jump into it. But again, when Fortnite exists as a free experience, I don't know why you'd ever jump into something like this.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's everything I've been playing.
I'm not too familiar with Elder Scrolls Blades. I did download it when it released on iPhones. Played it for a weekend, and then I felt the same way. I was like, I have games that do this better. Like, I'm not really interested in, like, you build that little hub village thing, and I was like, man, you could do this in Skyrim, like, complete. And I was always, in the touchscreen. I didn't like the controls on the iPhone, so I only imagined doing it on the Switch would probably just be even just more just awkward and cumbersome.
You know what this felt like? When I was playing this game, immediately my mind went back to crappy PSP games. This is what I was like, oh, you remember like when big console games came and they had their handheld counterpart, and this happened on DS too, and it was super low quality experience, but it was just dope to have that IP on the go.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like this game kind of fit in. Like, if this came out in 2008 or something like that, and you were playing this on the go, having quote-unquote Skyrim on the go would have been, like, amazing. But now, in the days of console experiences being on the go with the Switch, and a quick shout-out to the Vita, too, with Killzone Mercenaries and stuff like that. So console experience on the go have been a thing for quite a while, like real console experiences, that these kind of, like, watered-down variants of it don't cut it anymore. So this game is kind of, like, 10 years out of place, in my opinion.
No, yeah, for sure.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the stories, and we have a couple stories that were just included because I'm really excited about these IPs, and it's our show, so we can talk about what we want. So basically, they just announced the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 compilation, and this is kind of like a remake of the first two titles in the Pro Skater series, and it's been revealed, and it's been going to be released on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC, and it's being developed by Vicarious Visions. If you guys don't know, they're the ones who took care of the new Crash collection that came out. So they revealed it at the Summer Game Fest. Steve, you got a chance to see this. What do you think? It looks amazing to me.
Oh, I lost my mind when I saw this. So I just, so right before the Summer Game Fest, people were leaking, and and there was like text messages being leaked that this was being announced. Luckily, it was like 30 seconds before the actual showcase, because by the time I think you sent me the artwork that it was being announced, I was already watching the actual video, and I just could not believe it. I was like, oh my god, this looks so good, because I was always really disappointed in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD they did years ago. I think it was on PS3 and 360.
That was not it.
It was like a half step, that was before the age of like remasters and stuff like that. So when I saw this, and it looked so brand new, but also you could tell the mechanics and the weight of the characters were there from the originals. I just could not be happier. And then I was curious, man, I wonder who's making this. And then they're like, of course, we teamed up, Activision, all of them. They're like, oh, we teamed up with the guys who did our Crash reboot, our remaster. And that game was fantastic. And
awesome,
the Insane Trilogy that released on PS4 and, everywhere is so, it honors the classics so much, where it's, plays almost identically to the classics. So to have that brought up, and, they fixed some things in the Crash one. So I can only imagine they're going to fix a lot of those issues with the Tony Hawk original games and make them a little bit, just feel better and flow better in a 2020 game. I absolutely loved everything about this. The fact that they got, not all of them, but they got most of the original soundtracks there. They were able to, redo those licenses, which are always pretty expensive.
That's a big deal for a Pro Skater game, too. The soundtrack is just as important as the gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Especially when, it's not, this is not Tony Hawk Pro Skater 6. This is a classic. That's like if when you launched Crash Remake and the first world didn't have that normal song. Imagine that. It's that's part of the nostalgia that we love. And so the fact that they were able to get most of them, I think there's only a few songs they weren't able to relicense, and it's actually because some of those people who are no longer around and stuff, little nitpicks like that. But they got Superman in there, so that's my jam in Tony Hawk. So as soon as this announced, I have Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 somewhere, and I can't find it in the middle of my move. But I started playing that soundtrack like crazy because I was so excited to see this, and I'm excited to see also. They had Tony Hawk on the conference with Jeff Keighley, and he seemed so passionate, and I like that they did not mention Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. They kept talking. He did talk about the history of the Tony Hawk games in general, where he's like, we really love 1, 2. 3 and 4, and then he kind of stopped. He's kind of stopped there.
Yeah.
I wish they would have done maybe Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 as well, Really,
Yeah, that was one of the ones I grew up with a lot.
Yeah, I think they should have really, wrapped that in there as a nice tight package. But maybe they're doing 1 and 2, and then later 3 and 4, and then we never talk about maybe never talk about 5 again.
5's not canon.
Yeah, the same way that they didn't include Crash Nitro Kart in like the Crash trilogy that some reason people wanted.
It's like that maybe. Arkham game. They the way they treat that Arkham game it doesn't exist.
But yeah, I mean the game looks good. The soundtrack's there. The controls look good. I watched some of the gameplay that came out afterwards with Tony Hawk and stuff like that, and it looks and plays like the original ones, but obviously just modernized a little bit. So this game's everything I wanted. I've been dying for a good Tony Hawk game. The last one I really enjoyed was American Wasteland, I think, on the older consoles. So
yeah.
What did you think? I know we were texting while this was happening because we were both kind of losing our mind over this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is best case scenario. And when it comes to bringing older games back, I think as a gaming community, all we ask is that you handle with care. Mm-hmm. And to me, the way they were talking and describing how this came about and how they're approaching it, I mean, handle with care is on the front of their minds. And so this is way more than we could ever ask for. I mean, let alone the fact that they took a look at the original code. They're making it not only for analog sticks, but with, classic gamepad controls for those gamers. That just shows that they know who the target demographic is. And this is way more than just a cash grab. Now, obviously, this is probably going to sell astronomical. So they're aware of the financial implications of releasing a game like this. However, it seems like in order to realize that financial reality, you need to deliver the best quality product as possible. And this team is an excellent team to go to. They're approaching it exactly how they need to. I've seen some of the gameplay and it looks phenomenal. It looks exactly how it would. They're taking all the classic stuff that made it better or a great game, and they're just building upon that and adding small stuff. They're adding the multiplayer aspect and stuff like that in some of the different modes. But for example, their emphasis on making sure that they included couch co-op is a major deal, and it's something that is frequently overlooked in the modern game space because understandably it's hard to render such demanding crazy textures, 4K textures multiple times. I understand why couch co-op kind of went away, but the fact that they are willing to put in the work and realize to make sure that the full experience that you were able to have on the classic PS1 you can have here, just modernized. And I mean that's everything you could ever want for like an HD remake. And again, this is not just a remaster. It's not a fresh coat of paint. This is closer to like Spyro. This is Crash. That's what they're doing. Shadow Colossus. Like they're remaking these games, but upon the foundation of the original to make sure that the feel is correct. And I like that Tony Hawk was there and emphasizing the fact that the feel is what the most important thing. Because obviously the Pro Skater series really kind of went a different direction, and they allowed kind of franchises like Skate to kind of leapfrog them, because I felt like in many ways Skate was kind of tapping in to that old energy in a way that the Tony Hawk series kind of was not. And so the fact that, Pro Skater can come back, and I feel like in many ways kind of take that back now that there's not really that much competition in terms of like a big AAA release to compete with. There's small stuff going on in Steam that are doing a really awesome job. But as of right now, I mean, this is their chance. This is Tony Hawk Pro Skater's chance to kind of come back and reestablish your name in the game industry. And all I can hope is that they don't Guitar Hero and Rock Band themselves and not do it proper justice and come back and realize that the demand's not there and that the industry has changed too much. I think they have a unique opportunity to reestablish themselves in the same ways Crash did, where it's like, who would have thought that in 2020 people would be asking for a new Crash title? Like if I brought you back to like 2004, I mean, it was not looking like that. And I mean, it was kind of looking like that with Pro Skater 2 for a while. Like, it's like, hey, do you want Pro Skater 6? And it's like, oh, not after what they did with Pro Skater 5. Leave it dead.
Exactly.
And the fact that now they have another chance to not only bring back games that we like, but kind of reignite the fire for that name. And maybe when there's inevitably a Pro Skater 5, which I doubt, or Pro Skater 6, which I doubt they'd use that name just because of what they'd be attaching themselves to. That's something people would be excited for, and that could actually imagine that a Pro Skater game being in the Game of the Year conversation. Like, imagine that, and I think that's a real possibility now. So I'm really, really excited about this, and I love how close it is too. It's coming out September?
Let me see. I think it was September 4th. Also coming out for $40.
Yeah, $40.
That's that sweet spot. That's that
right
sweet
before
spot.
Cyberpunk too. So
Right
it's
before all
not
this big. It's gonna be
competing
my
super
casual.
hard.
Exactly. It's gonna be that casual game. People are gonna just gonna. I don't know. People are gonna lose their mind. I like it. And shout out to the. Have you seen the collector's edition?
Yes.
Oh, it looks fantastic.
Amazing.
Oh, it looks so good. It comes and it claims to be coming with a full size board, which is kind of dope.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
I doubt it, but because it's even the collector's edition is only $100, which
yeah, $100 for. I mean, either unless that board is made out of like cardboard, I don't understand how that works. But
I'm looking at the picture right now, and it says limited edition full size birdhouse skateboard deck with
for $60, you would imagine, because if the game's 40. Then
Yeah,
you're talking about $60 worth of value for a board, not including all the other stuff. I don't know. That's very low end for a board. So I don't know how they're gonna make that work. But hey, I'll trust them. We'll see how it works.
yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting. It was an exciting week for news. So we're gonna move on right into the next one. So PlayStation Studios. So Sony has developed a new umbrella brand to unite its first-party PlayStation titles. Obviously, all their God of Wars and all that stuff, they don't have like one like overbranching thing. So PlayStation has created a new opening video that will appear at the start of the games, and just like I thought when I first saw it, it's super familiar with the way Marvel has been doing theirs, where they do like that comic book splash and like tons of screenshots of previous Marvel movies and stuff like that, all the actors and stuff like that. It's pretty much that, except with Sony characters. And I've always thought that they should do this, especially for the people who went and saw the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Despite what you think of the movie, I know you're a lot less warm on it.
Keen on it, yeah.
That splash screen, though, when it showed all the Sega games and it zooms out
beautiful.
and says Sega.
Beautiful.
It's that for PlayStation games, and I thought it was super cool, super sleek. I can't wait to have that come out in all first-party games. So, did you? I know I sent you the link when it was happening. What did you think of the unveil? The unveil of it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. This is just smart branding. I mean, in this day and age, you want your name to be associated with quality, and the best way to do that is to attach a single kind of theme to all your work. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's worked out for Marvel really well, and with the MCU branching into gaming and shows and movies and stuff like that, and that all kind of being introed by the same kind of look, so that kind of communicates to your subconscious like, okay, so this is all kind of the same thing. This is all kind of one big family of units. Now that PlayStation's branching into movies and shows, and they're actually making a concerted effort to realize this, it makes all the sense in the world to kind of have something to unite everything and have this kind of umbrella thing. Because again, the casual consumer is going to start seeing these movies, the Uncharted movie, the Last of Us movie, whatever they end up doing, God of War, Twisted Metal, God knows what at this point. But and they're going to see that intro, and then maybe they'll walk into the room and see their son playing one of the brand new Sony games at that time, and like, oh yeah, I see that from the movie. So this is all one thing, huh? There's one kind of branching, not necessarily a branching narrative, but branching themes. And it makes all the sense in the world. And I'm surprised it's honestly took them that long, because again, PlayStation's in a situation where Sega has that intro. PlayStation has very console-centric kind of branding. So it's like, this is the PS4. But if you want to launch a Sony movie, how do you intro that? You don't put a PS4 splash screen on there, because I mean, it's not really associated with the console so much as the brand. So it makes all the sense in the world that they're doing this, and I'm glad they're getting with the times, and it makes sense that they're gonna jump into the movie game. You got to kind of adopt that kind of marketing strategy that the movie industry's been doing. So good for them. I'm with it, and I like the way it looks. I had seen Ratchet and stuff like that. I thought it looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's gonna look nice, especially, and then starting it with like a console. It's gonna. I believe from what they said, it's gonna launch with the PS5 games. It just makes all the sense in the world, because it's gonna look great when you launch a new PS5 game, and for the first time you see that big splash screen. It's iconic, and it's gonna hit people in the mind and in the heart. And that's what's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, Last of Us and Ghost will probably be the last two major Sony games to not have that.
Yeah,
and then they'll probably go forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we can move on to another really exciting story, for me at least. I mean, some people are excited for this. The Mafia Trilogy collection has been revealed. All 3 games will be remastered, and a formal announcement is scheduled for May 19th. Now, remaster means different things. From what they're showing, that looks like a remake to me. That ain't no remaster. I mean, we're talking about a game from what, like 2002 or something like that, and that game looks incredible. So I'm liking what I see there. 3 was 3 like 2015, 2016, so it's not that old. So that game's gonna probably get a little bit of a fresh coat of paint, if anything. But I'm really, really excited for this. I love the Mafia games, all 3 of them. Mafia 2 probably has to be my favorite, but I got a lot of love for Mafia 3 too. Other than the repetitive, game systems and kind of like format that they had there, I think the narrative of Mafia 3 was excellent, and Mafia 1 is super, super underrated. Just because of how much time there's been, I feel like it kind of suffers from a lot of the problems that GTA 3 has, where it kind of got overshadowed by its sequels, and just so much time has passed and not a lot of people revisit it. So I'm glad to see that finally be, back into the cultural zeitgeist. Now, they said that a formal announcement is coming on May 19th. So as of right now, that's 2 days from now. It's Tuesday. I don't know what that means, because I was like, if an announcement's to come, I don't know what we just experienced then. I mean, I guess they could be like, that's a teaser trailer. I guess a full-blown trailer is what they mean, but a formal announcement's a weird way to phrase that, because it makes me wonder. I'm like, then what the hell was this?
Yeah, because it was a short teaser. It was like 45 seconds. It was under a minute. And I thought it was cool the way they went, through the 3 protagonists and stuff like that. And I'm more familiar only with Mafia 2. My only exposure to Mafia 3 is Angry Joe's review on it, and then also when you showed me it in person,
the lighting
when your sky turned on fire for some reason. So I'm excited to go back in and play these, especially after looking at the screen. That's when I was confused when I was looking at the screenshots, and I remember texting you. I'm like, they're talking about it being I thought it was like a collection port, like it's because this has been rumored, because it's being rated in like Australia and all these places. Well, Mafia 2 specifically kept getting re-rated, and like all the licenses renewed. So we knew this. Well, we knew Mafia 2 was coming, but when I see those screenshots, I'm like, this looks identical to what like Tony Hawk is doing to the new Tony Hawk game, and why does this looks like really good and really clean and precise. So I guess my only thing is, we'll probably see actual, gameplay in a longer trailer, with 3 games. Because it is the Mafia Trilogy, so I'm assuming it's going to be one bundle. Maybe they're going to release them separately as well. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And we don't have to wait too long.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is there's kind of like a side note to include here, is that this is something that I saw lightly, but I didn't investigate too much. Apparently, the original writer and director is like not a part of this, because I guess somebody asked him about it. Like, hey, because he did the original Mafia. He did the writing for the original Mafia game. And so they asked him, like, basically about this collection. And he was basically like, I have no part of this. They didn't talk to me about this. They didn't consult me about this. I have no part of this collection. And frankly, like, my hopes for it are not too high. And they asked him for clarification. He's like, I just am not expecting much from this. So, I mean, I don't know if that's him being salty because he wasn't included. I don't know if he's privy to some information that maybe this is not going to be as good as we think it is, but I thought it was just worth including, because I saw that and I was just like, that's kind of an interesting story that I'm keeping my eye out on. It's been overwhelmingly positive with this announcement, but I just wanted to conclude that there is another side to it about people who are not particularly that enthused about the prospect of these games coming back in the form they are.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some mystery back there going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Him and Mick Gordon not too happy with the companies they're working with.
Yeah, I guess maybe, I don't know. That's, at least as of now, nothing's been. At least he didn't go out like blasting them. So
no.
He's staying professional.
Yeah, and hey, they solicited him for an opinion, and he just responded on Twitter. So I just wanted to include that. You guys can look more into it if that's a story that you're interested in, but I thought it was worth including.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and if there's some shady stuff, trust we'll be the first to call anybody on it.
Yeah, because we love drama.
All right, so the next was the Unreal Engine 5 reveal, which was weirdly shown. So this was part of the continuing the Summer Game Fest, but some reason it was also being amplified on IGN's Summer of Reveal. They kind of ignored each other, that this wasn't going to be the same reveal. Ended up being the same reveal. So Epic showed off the Unreal Engine 5 for the first time as it was running, apparently on a PS5 dev kit. They did announce that it was on a dev kit. Obviously, the PS5s, I guess, have not reached full production, stuff like that. They did clarify it was on a dev kit. It wasn't a new game. It was just a tech demo. I forgot even what they called the tech demo. So what did you think of this before I jump into dissecting? What did you think of the engine and the tech demo?
Yeah, so immediately as I was watching, I was just paying attention to some of like the textural differences, and I've seen a notable difference, especially with the lighting and some of the way the audio is playing. Really impressive stuff though, but I do always kind of like temper my own expectations because I'm like, again, remember, this is a tech demo. This is an engine. This is kind of like what the engine is capable of. This might not necessarily reflect the reality, especially at launch of the console, because again, that's developer by developer, and what they choose to do with it is on them. How they choose to optimize their game to run on this engine is on them, if they're even running on Unreal Engine 5. So yeah, really impressive stuff. Beautiful game that they showed off. Again, just a tech demo, unfortunately, because I was watching this and I was like, man, I want to play this to be honest. But right? Especially that flying portion on the latter half, I'm like, wow. And again, I was just looking at like the various assets moving on screen and how smooth it was running, and you could tell there was ray tracing going on and the 4K textures, and this, I was like, this is definitely some next gen stuff. And again, some people who like don't super pay attention to the tech of stuff may not notice. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it looks kind of like Journey, right? And I'm just like, no, this is something different. They're doing something different here. Some of them particle effects and stuff like that. I can tell that this is tech we haven't necessarily seen before. But again, it does take developers time to really extract the full amount of power out of hardware. Like, we're seeing stuff like Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us running on PS4s now, but I mean, let's be honest, when you go back to the launch of the PS4, Killzone Shadowfall was kind of doing a different thing. It's a beautiful game and it's a powerful game, but what they were doing back on the PS4 closer to launch is very different than what they're doing now, because they fully found ways to extract as much power as humanly possible out of this piece of hardware. And so I feel like it's important to note that Unreal Engine 5 is capable of some gorgeous stuff. The PS5 is obviously, capable of running some really impressive stuff, but temper your expectations for launch, because some of these I feel like are going to be a lot of cross-gen titles, and so you might not be seeing games fully take advantage of everything that Unreal Engine 5 has to offer for maybe 2 years or so. And again, I could be being a little negative on it, but I think I just want to be more realistic about it if anything's possible. Again, this is a tech demo created by Epic themselves. It's a whole different thing when, Bethesda or Sucker Punch or whoever gets their hands on Unreal Engine 5 and they start, building their games on that.
Yeah, you wrapped it up pretty well. That was my big thing. People, first off, I was like, I don't know why I fooled myself. I thought Epic was actually gonna announce whatever that game was. I was like, cool, they're still doing the Fortnite stuff, but they're gonna amp up something else, show that they still have there. Of course, I fooled myself. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, that tech demo looked great. I was like, oh man, this looks kind of cool. I kind of have like a ancient Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed kind of vibe. I was like, this is cool. And then, I was watching the lighting and the particles when like one rock would fall and like it would come and like connect with everything else, and it just made the world feel really alive. And who knows? Tech demos have been turned into video games before. So there was the Detroit on PS4 and now on PC. That originally came from a tech demo. But you are very right that you gotta be careful with it, because remember we saw the Final Fantasy VII remake. Not the remake, but a Final Fantasy VII intro remake on the PS3 as a tech demo. Yep. And it looked great. Nothing came of it. Look, you had to wait another 10-something years to get that remake. So, but what you're saying is right. Is we don't know when Unreal Engine 5 is getting into people's hands. We don't know when that stuff's actually gonna have people get a chance to make mistakes with it. They're gonna have to sit there and mess around with it and really be able to tap into the full potential of Unreal Engine 5. It's great that it's working so well with PlayStation 5, because obviously it's probably going to be the next-gen hardware I get first. But like you said, most of that stuff's going to be that cross-gen kind of stuff was last-minute ported to the PS5. And, Unreal Engine 5, who knows how long it's been working, who knows how long, if their devs and their, demos and stuff like that have been sent to creators again before, prior to. So I'm in the same boat as you. Launch, it's gonna games gonna look good, but 2-3 years in, when like these companies really get to start using Unreal Engine, then I think it's gonna start looking like real good, and we're gonna start getting the God of Wars of the next gen.
Yeah, absolutely impressive stuff, but again, just it's going to be a little bit before you start seeing games doing anything close to what this this tech demo is doing. It's going to be a little bit, unless the tech is rapidly moving faster and accelerating, and I'm stuck on the PS4, Xbox One generation level thinking. I would say it's going to be, expect a year to 2 years before you see main AAA games taking the form that they demonstrated here.
Yeah, and also just a little caveat and add on to the story. Obviously, they confirmed that Fortnite will be coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X. And at some point in the future, they will be moving Fortnite to Unreal Engine 5 to be running on those systems.
Yeah.
Don't know what that's going to look like or play like, but that's just a little caveat that came out afterwards, I think, in a press conference.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, is the fact that they're moving the whole game over to the new engine. So I'm curious to see if there's any notable difference. I mean, I know that would probably do some great things for the frame rate in terms of very, consistently high frame rates. And when you get into a game like that, that matters a lot. The textures are already pretty high, so I would imagine the only thing is it has a very cartoony art style. So I'm curious to see how, Fortnite looks with all that ambient lighting and different particle effects, and how the environment maybe will react to certain things can change. But again, just because it has a certain art style doesn't mean that it can't take advantage of crazy powerful engines and hardware. Because again, look at Minecraft. I mean, that was a very basic game, and now they have these crazy 4K patches and stuff like that that look absolutely insane. That it looks like something I couldn't have thought up in my head. I could have never thought of Minecraft looking the way it does now. Because, again, I just didn't think that such a pixelated, simple game could look the way it does. So, again, I'm excited to see what they do with something like Fortnite.
Yeah, and I just wonder how they're going to feel that, because you're going to have to shut down Fortnite for a while and relaunch it. You can't just patch that overnight. So I'm curious, because they did show a while, I'm talking like a year ago, Epic did do like a weird showing of like Fortnite in a different engine. Now I'm wondering if that engine was just a super teaser for UE5. So I'm kind of curious, but it didn't look too different. But obviously, so maybe when it's full in effect, we'll see what's going on with them.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we can move on to the next story, which was a super surprise for everybody. Nintendo suddenly revealed a new first-party Mario game, Paper Mario: The Origami King, and it's set to release July 17th, which is crazy close. Very atypical for Nintendo to kind of flip a game this fast. But I would imagine the marketing for this probably had a lot to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. And the fact that they probably had they were probably ready to announce this some time ago, but they didn't want to announce anything probably with the possibility that delays could happen due to the pandemic, so they wanted to make absolutely sure. So that's why I think they really, announced it so close to release. But they said, I mean, it's a great addition, and I was kind of curious. I was like, okay, Animal Crossing is phenomenal. Do they have anything else for the rest of the year? Because as of right now, they don't really have anything. I mean, Metroid, they were restarting production. They haven't really talked too much about that. So I was like, I don't know when that's coming. Mainline Mario game after Odyssey, that takes some time to make too as well. Same thing with Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is a little bit farther off. And stuff, even like big third-party games like Bayonetta 3, I think that's still in production. So I was just like, what does Nintendo got for the rest of the year? And so this was a nice, very pleasant thing to show off. I like what they're showing. I like the trailer. It looks like a really fun game, really pretty game. I know some people are like super fans of Paper Mario and arguing about different things that it contains and doesn't contain. Is it like Color Splash, and is it not? And is it more of a return to the older games? I'm not super knowledgeable about the metagame of Paper Mario, so I can't say about how good this is going to be. But for me, I wouldn't say I'm new to Paper Mario, but rather way more casual about it. I'm excited to jump into it, but what did you think about this announcement?
Yeah, so originally when I saw this announcement, I thought it was fake, because there's Nintendo of America, and then there's another Twitter page that's Nintendo of America without the verification. Yeah. And they post things constantly that look
random
sometimes
stuff, yeah.
They look realistic sometimes. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, Origami Paper Mario. I was like, yeah, all right. But then I saw the blue check mark, and I'm like, whoa. I sent the trailer to, like, I think you and my brother and my other friend, because it was like 8 a.m. and it's just this random Paper Mario announcement, reveal, and a date was given. And obviously this does go in with that, the direct that was rumored for a long time was delayed. And this probably was supposed to be announced at a direct, shown at their E3 presence, whatever they do, the direct during E3, and then right around the corner, release it, which would be a good three-step way to release a game. This also works for me, just showing me the game, and it looks fantastic. I think the origami thing is a really interesting thing. I'm surprised it didn't come sooner, because I know they did with like stickers, and they did that color splash one and stuff like that. So it looks more in line from what we've seen to the original two Paper Marios, which is where I really loved. So I played Paper Mario on 64, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Yeah, it's the GameCube one.
On GameCube. That's really where my Paper Mario experience ends. I did play the other one on Wii, but that one wasn't RPG style. That one was all like puzzle based and platforming.
Yeah, that changed the format a lot.
Never played the 3DS one, which was, I think, sticker. And then I didn't play the Wii U one, which was color splash. And I never played the crossover on DS, which was Paper Mario and the Mario and Luigi crossover thing.
Yeah.
People always forget about that one. I never played that one anyway because I'm not a huge Mario and Luigi fan. But this looks more in line with that. I'm sure they did take the feedback because, like, again, if you're thinking like the last three Paper Mario games, which would be sticker, color splash, and then that crossover, I don't remember reading that many good reviews about it. I saw a lot of people being very negative on a lot of like the mechanics and especially sticker. People really hated the combat because it was almost like Chain of Memories for Kingdom Hearts kind of gameplay, from my understanding, with like touching stickers instead of cards. So if they return back to the roots, we don't have another Mario RPG game right now with Mario and Luigi, that saga being on hold because that developer closed.
Yeah.
I think this will definitely be able to fit in there, giving you probably that fun aspect of Mario with also giving you that combat, which is, was a simple but exciting combat. So I'm good. I'm more happy, more Mario RPG in any format is super good for me. The origami thing is a cool concept because they play with so many different things. And I like that little Metroid Easter egg we saw at the end with him running around with Samus's helmet. Like, I don't know if you saw it, it's like a little after trailer where it's like Mario, he puts on Samus's helmet and he's running around.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then July 17th, I'm super surprised they're just coming out and just dropping it. I do probably think they do have a fall game. It'd be crazy for them not to have a fall game. But at least this keeps the conversation going. Animal Crossing is such a big game that people are still playing it. I'm still playing it, customizing all my stuff. But you do kind of need another game to track people on, because Animal Crossing at some point will just be my checkpoint game where I'll check it really quickly, do what I can do, and leave. I do want another like Nintendo game to be playing on my Switch, like Nintendo game. I don't want to be playing Resident Evil 5 on my Switch over and over.
Yeah, so, I would say, the year is a long time, so to expect one title to kind of last everything, that's very Microsoft. They try that, but it's not an easy thing to do. You need an absolute juggernaut to do that. So if this is a really good game, which I'm hoping it is, and they can run stuff for the summer, and then maybe with a fall title, and this could be very, optimistic of me, but like if they were finally able to like reveal and release Metroid finally Prime 4, that could put them in a great position where to have those three juggernauts run the year. I think that would put Nintendo in a great spot. But again, they have a lot of IP to draw from, and I doubt it's going to be a Kirby game. Yoshi just kind of fired. A mainline Mario game, they would give way more time to kind of like market and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But perhaps maybe like a Metroid game or something like that would be really, really dope. Like, even if it's something we don't know yet, like imagine if they kind of did what they did with Metroid 2 with the 3DS game, but like they have like a Zero Mission remake for Switch. I think that would be pretty awesome, and that would buy them some time too.
Yeah, and to roll the clock back a little bit, this lines up with a rumor we talked about a while ago for the Mario 35th anniversary.
Yes.
In that original rumor, there was a talk of the next mainline Paper Mario. They didn't say remake Paper Mario. They said a next mainline Paper Mario. So we've got that. And Nintendo's been pretty quiet, obviously. This gets me excited just a little bit that maybe that 30... Because that would also hold people off, being able to release, the two Galaxies, 64, and Sunshine again.
Oh, yeah. Mario Collection stops everything.
That would very much help you pad it. Now, if you want to save that for the fall, or would you want to do that between this and whatever you're launching in the fall? I don't know the plan. All I know is it gave a little bit more credibility to that original rumor and leak, which makes me excited because I really want to play the Galaxy games without going in there with a waggle on Wii. I don't want to play it that way. I want to play it on my Switch. I want to play Galaxy on my Switch.
Well, yeah, when next gen's coming out this fall, and it's rumored, some October, some November. Mm-hmm. If Nintendo really wants to be a part of that discussion and really have some attention on them, I mean, that's the way to do it, man. You come out with a Mario collection, I don't care what nobody says. That holds up perfectly against a PS5 and Xbox Series X conversation.
Exactly.
Like, easily.
Exactly.
But you got to pull out the big guns. Again, I love Star Fox and I love stuff like that. They ain't gonna cut it. But if you start releasing HD version of the classic Mario titles, I don't care what PlayStation doing, I don't care what Xbox is doing, that's worth talking about, and that's going to demand some attention. And hey, man, I'll put my PS5 controller down to replay some Mario Sunshine or some Galaxy on my Switch. Period.
Absolutely, especially at some point people are gonna start going back to work and stuff. I can't play my PS5 at work.
Yeah.
I can play some Sunshine. I can get some Stars in 64, and the demand's there. That illegal PC port of Mario 64 was blowing up. Everyone wanted to play it, and they're like, "Look how good it looks." I'm like, "That Switch could run that at a better frame rate." I'm like, "People want to do this. Like, people want to play this game more." Obviously, I'd love to play it on my Xbox if I could play it. It's gonna be a long time before we ever see that, if ever. But it just doesn't make any sense that it's not on Switch. So that would, and again, like you're saying, that's such a big contender. That's not like a Punch-Out game. That's like titles you already own and people love, and you can charge a good, decent amount again for them.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on Nintendo. Don't write them off yet because they can surprise you, and I'm really pleasantly excited about this Paper Mario game. So keep your eyes on them because I think they got some more in the tuck for the rest of 2020.
Yeah, for sure. I think they got a new game plan.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I think this was, besides Tony Hawk, because I was super excited for the Tony Hawk reveal announcement, there was one other trailer I was excited to see, and that was Sony's State of Play for Ghost of Tsushima. And that's their latest State of Play, which they haven't done one in a long time, showed off 18 minutes of Ghost of Tsushima. And I've always was excited about this game because I'm a big, Sucker Punch fan and all that, and I'm excited for first party Sony games. They're usually held to a standard. This game, because it was always kind of like in the background or in the middle of a State of Play, I didn't know too much about, and I was just like, all right, it would be cool Samurai Ninja game. This game is so much more than that. This game looks so good. I am so excited. I went from like not even having it pre-ordered to like I went and pre-ordered it on Amazon because I was like, this game looks really good. Everything about that, between the graphics and the art style, between the way that you can really play with no HUD, to find your waypoints and stuff. There's the wind that blows and you can follow that. You have to look for visual cues with animals, and if birds are flying a certain direction constantly, they're maybe trying to tell you something. The open, like, very Assassin's Creed style where you can go in, well, I would say guns a-blazing, but I guess more crossbow blazing and sword, and do all this parry stuff, or you can play as Ghost mode, which is the very ninja stealth aspect of it. The game looks fantastic. You have the option of, if you want to play with English voice acting, it's completely there. You want to play with Japanese voice acting, completely there. For any One Piece fans, I don't know if you know this, the guy who plays Rorona Zoro in One Piece is playing the main character. So I'm obviously playing it. Yeah, I'm playing it in Japanese because I was gonna play in Japanese regardless. I'm a huge One Piece fan, so giving me the voice actor who does Zoro, I was just like super for it. So this game has a lot going for it. I loved everything I saw. What did you think of this? We haven't really discussed the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed. I'm on board with it, man. I was excited to begin with because, again, just thematically, really love samurais, love feudal Japan, love everything about the setting. I have a lot of faith in Sucker Punch, and Sony's been on, a real good run right now. So everything was kind of shaping up to be my kind of game, and I'm really excited for it. And a great way to kind of like end off the PS4's legacy. And so just seeing the gameplay here, I mean, I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing. And for the most part, it seems like it was running. That was gameplay right there. They weren't pulling the fast one on us. So I'm pretty confident that that's what the final product's going to look like. It's not like a Watch Dogs situation where they're showing it off super far in advance and then the final product's something else. I mean, this game is, 2 months off or something like that. So I'm fairly confident this is how the game's going to look. I love the kind of emphasis on harkening back to those older, samurai movie themes. I really like what they were doing there. Big fan of those movies. I used to watch them a lot growing up. So I instantly knew exactly what they were talking about when they kind of made it grayscale and grainy and stuff like that, and that kind of like dramatic widescreen look. I loved what they were doing there.
Oh my god.
Just everything about it looks fantastic. The two gameplay styles is great because, again, I'm not the best at stealthy mechanics, so the ability to kind of go in and go for a more kind of like precision combat, think on your feet, think light, think fast, is definitely my kind of style. And so I'm glad that they kind of, depending on what you're interested in, you can go for that. I think that's excellent. I'm curious to see if that's more of like a narrative thing, like certain parts of the games you play more as a samurai, the other times you play more as a ghost, and they kind of direct that, they give you that choice, or can you play that way anytime you want? It seems to be leaning more towards the latter because they showed you attacking the same situation in two different ways, which is very exciting for me, again, because, again, some people like more the stealthy aspect of it. I like guns blazing way more personally. And that's just a preference thing. So everything about this game I'm really excited for, and I have no reason to believe it's going to be anything short of phenomenal. And I'm curious to see, once it's out and everybody got it in their hands, how the story holds up, because again, gameplay looks excellent, world looks excellent, navigation looks excellent, the way it's running, everything looks amazing. We don't know too much about the story yet. No. And then the side characters and stuff like that. So, and who knows? They might not say anything about that. And I think that would be a pretty awesome way to market the game, is just let the game's visuals speak for themselves and let you experience that story once you have it in your hands. I think that's pretty dope. I'm curious to see if that holds up as well. But yeah, man, I'm really, really high on it.
Yeah, no, I completely. I've seen this trailer a couple of times. When they did the widescreen, grayscale black and white situation, they're like, you can play this way if you want, if you're familiar with the old samurai movies. I'm just like, they know what they're doing. I'm like, man, the fan base. People love to watch things in that format. And now I'm debating, like, man, am I going to spend my time going back and forth between full color because it looks fantastic, or do I want a little bit of that nostalgia and play it with that format, with the widescreen, grayscale black and white? Because sometimes that just adds so much more to it. It for some reason brought me back to Mad Max Fury Road, the movie.
Yeah.
When they released the Black and Steel edition, I don't know what it was, but I loved that movie even more in black and white.
I'm the same way with Book of Eli.
Same way. Exactly.
Some movies just look better that way.
Yeah, so I can't wait to be like, when I can tell, when the story ends, probably at one point we'll start getting like super serious, and like you're probably gonna fight like big boss battles. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to put this in widescreen, black and white, and then try to do the parrying system. Which looks, solid. The gameplay looks so solid, and I'm with you where I'm assuming some missions you'll probably have to play samurai version, and some you'll have to play as well, like they call the ghost version. I like that they kind of hinted at like a rep system, because the more you do as the ghost, like the legend goes around. Because there was that one guy who saw him, but dropped his sword and was like coward, like he was scared and backing up because he was afraid of with the mask and stuff like that. So I like that when you're revealed, it's not immediately have to switch to like samurai mode, like Assassin's Creed games. When you get caught, it goes all out and they all come and jump you. That guy was afraid. He's like, oh my god, I've heard of the ghost. He knew what he was doing, so he dropped his blade and was like cowardly, trying to step his back, and obviously he still killed him, which was fantastic. But I like that small mechanic, because that way you don't have to lose your stealth just because you got caught or one guy saw you. So I'm glad that continues. And I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they're not going for something arcadier, because, again, they're developers and games that are doing that at a really, really high level right now. And I didn't want them to kind of jump in and compete with, the Sekiros and the Neos. I wanted them to do something a little bit more grounded and heavy, and not so much in a heavy, like a From Software way. But obviously they're going for a way more realistic samurai feel with those. Realistically, you get slashed with a sword the correct way, I mean, you ain't coming back for too much more, to be honest.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So I'm glad that there's ways to kind of take enemies down in 2 or 3 hits, but obviously it's not something easily done. People move around. The AI looks very intuitive and smart, and again, reacting to the kind of rep that you have around town, very in line with previous Sucker Punch entries. So I mean, they're obviously taking some of the lineage they set up with the association to their name and kind of finding a way to adopt that into something newer here. I'm glad that they have the Japanese voice option, because, again, to me, personally, nothing's more jarring when you're, like, in Japan playing with Japanese people, and for some reason they just speak English with accents. I don't understand.
It's
like playing like Yakuza in English is such a weird prospect to me. So that's why I'm glad to be at least have the option. Hey, if you want to play in English, that's your prerogative. More power to you. But I'm glad that they have a way to play it to make it feel a little bit more natural for me. So I'm really high on this game, and I'm gonna be there day one. Absolutely, got it pre-ordered. We'll see if I keep my pre-order. I want to see if Amazon rebounds by that point. If I need to get it digital, I'll do what I got to do to play it day one. But I'm really hoping to have that physical.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too, because I might have to wait till maybe GameStop's open and get it pre-ordered there. They're open now, but you can't pre-order. It's weird the way they do things. But yeah, because I pre-ordered it, and Amazon was like, yeah, we don't know when we're going to ship it to you. I'm like, I'm pre-ordering
Better be day one, man. Better be day one. I'm telling you, Amazon, don't play with me.
You know, I just thought, oh man, is this another Final Fantasy? And again, I'm hoping by then things will be worked out a little bit, because I've been ordering things on Amazon, and they come respectively. This is the first time I'm like, oh, I'm pre-ordering this. Do I have to watch out now and get a second pre-order? And I probably will try to get this pre-ordered anywhere. I think Best Buys are opening up soon, so maybe I never pre-order things at Best Buy, but maybe have to do it that way, because I do want this physical. I do want this one physical.
Yeah, my Birds of Prey arrived, so I know Amazon is able to do release date delivery right now. I would imagine the demand for Ghost of Tsushima and Birds of Prey on 4K Blu-ray are a little different. So
yeah, again, you know, I got my Final Fantasy VII one, but it was weeks later. Weeks later, and now it's on my shelf sealed. So we'll keep in touch. We'll keep an eye on it, and I'm assuming we'll probably get that this game's gone gold soon, because I know Last of Us went gold a little bit ago. Ghost, you gotta close. Yeah, you gotta assume sometime. Probably you gotta probably assume before they launch The Last of Us, they're gonna put the announcement out to not cross paths on it.
Yeah, mid-June at the latest, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah, in the next few weeks we'll hear that game's gone gold.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of end the show here with the loose topic, which is going to be our favorite Nintendo console. Now, this is obviously, I think we're going to do this like the first of four, and we're going to go on to PlayStation, then Xbox, and then cap it off with Sega, our favorite consoles. And so let's start with you. What is your personal favorite Nintendo console? And we're talking mainline consoles here.
Mainline consoles, yeah. So I was stuck between two of them. So I was really stuck between, and I know it's kind of hearsay because people like to jump always to NES, but I was really stuck between the SNES and the GameCube.
Yeah.
Which was a hard one. But when I came down to the overall experience between like the mechanics of the games, the actual control, like if I wanted to sit down and play something, what did I want to play? And that was the NES. SNES. The Super Nintendo, hands down, has to be my favorite Nintendo console. And I know there's always been that big debate between NES and SNES. In my opinion, and everyone's just to their own opinion, the NES does things better in every way. I understand that NES has Mario 1 and, well, we're not going to count 2, but Mario 1 and 3.
Yep.
But the SNES has Super Mario World. And I know I'm biased because that's my favorite game of all time. I'm not super keen on Super Mario World 2, the Yoshi's Island. I'm not that big of a fan of. I actually really don't like that game. But when you just look at the differences in games, the differences of not just the artwork, because don't get me wrong, because I love the classic Castlevania artwork. Don't get me wrong, I love that pixelated, so it's not just like, oh, the graphics are better. But I just think when I think gameplay experiences from first party to third party, I remember playing this dumb ant game when I threw dominoes at each other. I don't even know what it was called. And those direct experiences like that, those just, they amplified and really made me become, like, I guess, a gamer. Because as much as I had loved playing the original Mega Mans, I could not beat them. When I get to the SNES, I had Mega Man X, which, top notch. It's a perfect game. I love that game. And it's just all those kind of experiences that's like, they're I know there's like the roots in the NES. But to me, they just thrived and became what they needed to become on the SNES. So on the Super Nintendo, it was just, I think the Super Nintendo reached the peak of what the NES wanted to do. And again, I understand it's pretty much a sequel in every way, and most of the games are a sequel or spiritual successors in every way. But the SNES is hands down to be my favorite console. If I had to play one Nintendo console for the rest of my time, GameCube was fine, and I was kind of a close second. But those were all so many third-party games where I was really
A lot of fluff on there, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking on there, I'm like, besides a few like Luigi's Mansion and Sunshine and Melee, those games are fine, but those aren't games I wanted to keep playing over and over. I keep playing Super Mario World constantly throughout the 27 years I've been alive. Well, obviously not when I was a baby, but you know what I mean. Since I could play that game, I've constantly played that game. Luigi's Mansion, I'll be honest, I played like 3 times my whole life because I know what it is, and it's fine. There's something about the replayability on the SNES. That control just is. Don't get me wrong, game control is great, but there's something so iconic and home feeling when I play the SNES that just hands down that has to be my favorite console. And most of my favorite games come from that generation, and mainly because they were games. And I understand games now are like artwork, and I have a whole different appreciation to them for story and stuff like that. But the SNES had games, had my experiences, and that's what really just nested me into being a Nintendo fan in general. Without the SNES, I probably would never follow Nintendo anymore. So that's mine. That's how I cap it off. I've always told people that. That's why when I was excited to talk about this, because I love gushing over the Super Nintendo. But what's your choice? What was your favorite Nintendo console?
Okay, so I think we all know this answer already.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go with the NES. And the main a big contributing factor is not only where I started in gaming, but the fact that during the Super Nintendo era, as phenomenal of a console that is, there was this little console named the Genesis at the time that definitely took a lot of my attention. In terms of 16-bit games, when I go back to there, I typically go to the Genesis, and that's the only thing that's working against the Super Nintendo, and allows for the NES to kind of like leapfrog it. Mm-hmm. But in terms of just some of my favorite games, they kind of just all happen to fall on the NES. Obviously, Mario 3. The Castlevania 3 is phenomenal. The Mega Man games going up to that point. I mean, come on. Mega Man 3, I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. And then, I mean, you can't overlook like Ninja Gaiden. There's just excellent sprite art. And I think what makes me love the NES so much is the fact that with its technical limitations, developers were forced to make incredible gameplay loops. You couldn't rely on awesome cutscenes and crazy deep in-depth story and crazy, leveling systems and intuitive AI to kind of mask the gameplay loop. That's all you had. So if the platforming wasn't up to snuff and that kind of that action and the kind of, level structure and stuff like that weren't there, I mean, it showed through. There was nothing to hide behind. And I think there's like a beauty in that simplicity for me personally in terms of playability. And I think with every Nintendo console, you're going to bump into the fair share of like crappy games, especially once you go into like the sports and some of the puzzle games like that. There's kind of fluff, and I mean, nothing got worse than during the Wii generation, obviously. But so yeah, the NES has its fair share of pretty crappy games, but you got to give a shout out. I mean, Konami were on their P's and Q's during this generation. I mean, that combo, and Capcom was killing it then. Konami was killing it back then. You had, Sunsoft, like all these amazing developers just killing it back then. And so I have to give a lot of credit. I love the 8-bit music. I love the gameplay to it. But again, the Super Nintendo was a very close second to me. And I had to give GameCube a lot of love. But again, when you take out like nostalgia, that does dock the GameCube a couple points for me personally. And I think in terms of like consistency, in terms of like number of games I personally want to play, there's probably the most on the NES. But again, if you delete the Genesis from existence, I think it's pretty easy for me to choose Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. But that 16-bit generation just drew a little bit of my attention too much towards the Genesis over the Super Nintendo. So got to give NES its credit. That's where it started in terms of Nintendo's domination. Obviously, they had consoles before that point with the TV games and the Game & Watch systems and stuff like that. So they were in the console space before that point. But I feel like obviously the Nintendo Entertainment System is where they really got into cartridge-based systems and really started dominating the market. And I mean, they were generally uncontested during this era too. I mean, the Master System existed, but they weren't really doing too much there. I mean, and by that point, yeah, Atari, ColecoVision and Television, Magnavox Odyssey, they were kind of... the game crash kind of got them out of the way. So for the most part, I mean, it was Nintendo only, and they had the benefit of every dev. If if you wanted a place in the game industry, you're gonna have to release on Nintendo and work with them. And I just wanted to give them a shout out there.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, like you were saying, if you wanted to get your game out there, you got to release on Nintendo, and now it's almost reversed.
Yeah,
where Nintendo usually comes last, and it's sad in one aspect, and Nintendo's on a comeback kid story, but it's wild to think that how much has changed since then.
I do want to give a shout out to the Switch though, and by no means is it anywhere close to my favorite Nintendo console yet. But on the trajectory they're on, if they can figure out Virtual Console, like in a real substantive way, and continue with these really quality first-party IPs, man, I could see it leapfrogging GameCube for me personally. If they keep on this trajectory, who knows what this could be? I mean, who knows? They could be shooting blanks for the rest of the generation, theoretically. But I mean, hey, if they continue and Breath of the Wild 2 is a hit too, I mean, a lot of those accolades of like the best Mario games and the best Zelda games and stuff like that, and if they release like a F-Zero game and Metroid comes back, a lot of the great titles from the Super Nintendo and NES titles can have a strong presence on the Switch, and that can put them in a position. I would understand a lot of people putting Switch as their favorite Nintendo console.
That's true. It would easily climb up there, because obviously Wii and Wii U are not going to be on my list of like favorite. So it obviously goes from those to the Switch, and that's why me and you being such big fans, and I kind of always guessed that you were gonna choose NES. And I'm sure you could guess I was gonna pick SNES.
Oh yeah.
But that's why you and I get so upset with Nintendo, the way Nintendo's doing their online service with the release of NES games and SNES games, because there's so many good titles. I know licensing's a small issue, but you're Nintendo. All these crazy good titles, even first-party titles, and they release like weird, dumb games. They just they give us one game every 3 months. Didn't they just release like one random Japanese NES game that no one even knew what it was on that their solution to Virtual Console? And that's why you and I get so upset with them, because like you have the good games, and we're paying you your service, your $20 a year. I know it's not a lot, but for this, so I can go to use my so I can go to someone's Animal Crossing island, and then I can play Super Mario World. When I've bought Super Mario World on every other Nintendo console, I can't play it here. I can't bring it over. I can't re-buy it. Like, you have such a history there, and you have such good games in those libraries that we know you have the licenses to, because you were releasing them on Wii, you were releasing them on Wii U, you were releasing them on 3DS, and now you come to your Switch, which would be the perfect place to have them. Be able to play at home and on the go. And we have to play this weird, cumbersome, constantly check online every 7 days thing so you can play Mario 1 on your Switch. And it's just so awkward for them to do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess what frustrates us the most about Nintendo is their highs are so high and their lows seem so avoidable. It's not like Nintendo's hand is forced when they've slipped up. It seems like very avoidable situations.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, again, the NES, phenomenal console. The Super Nintendo was knocking out of the park, fantastic. And then you go to the N64, which is a good console in its own right, amazing games on there. But the entire industry moves towards discs. No, we go towards cartridges, which ultimately allowed for a new player in the space, Sony, to jump in and leapfrog everyone. Yeah. And outsell them, which was, I mean, the idea of Nintendo being outsold by some newcomer, is mind-blowing at the time. And then the GameCube, they killed it, everything, phenomenal about that. Interesting discs, but it paid off. It was a good, and the PS2 obviously had the whole DVD thing that really helping them at the time. But I would never say that the GameCube was a miss by anything. The Wii, they go towards motion controls. They try to do something weird. But hey, they sold well. Cool. Wii U comes. What happened? They slipped up. Such an avoidable situation, but they slipped up. The power wasn't where it needed to be. The first party support wasn't where it needed to be. They didn't make a piece of hardware that was compelling. The gamepad, just so many issues with the Wii U. But then now they're here with the Switch, and it's a phenomenal console. And some of the issues with the Switch are just so avoidable in terms of the Virtual Console, in terms of some of the online infrastructure. But if they could just correct some of these small things, if they had a prominent Virtual Console on site, they had a good online infrastructure, I mean, they have the opportunity to have the best console they've ever released there, because it has the online, it has the handheld aspect, it has the docking section. you can make argument like, I mean, a phenomenal 3D Mario game. I wouldn't say the best, but to some people, maybe the best 3D Mario game. One of the best Mario Karts, if not the best Mario Karts on the title. New IPs like Splatoon are absolutely killing it. Splatoon 2 is a phenomenal game. They could have the best Metroid Prime if they play their cards right. They can have a great Paper Mario. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from the Switch being their dominant console. And they just need to pay attention to what made them great and kind of double down on that. And I don't think that it's outside the realm possibility that they could release a console better than the NES or the Super Nintendo in the future. I don't think that's an impossibility for them. They just need to keep their eyes on the prize, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. They have to learn, and they're very stubborn on learning.
Very.
You know, everyone had to make mistakes. You know, Sony for the most part dropped the ball for the PS3, and that's why they had to reinvent the console twice in its life cycle, and then the PS4 really amplified the good stuff. You know, Xbox didn't amplify what made the 360 so fantastic, and they had to spend a whole generation fixing it. And now they're on top of their game, and things are looking good forward. Nintendo does this back and forth where they're like, they did good, they stumble, and then they like slowly recover from their stumble instead of just fixing it. Like, people want this, but they won't do it. They'll try to find workarounds to do it. And like, oh, well, we can do it this way. We can do it this way. You want SNES games? Well, pay us $20 a year, and we'll randomly drip them to you when we feel like it, after no sort of a game plan. And it's like, you gotta learn to fix these things. And everyone else is doing it, you know. From my understanding, Google Stadia is trying to fix themselves. Who knows? But that's a different ballgame. But
we'll see with them, yeah.
Your competitors learned and fixed their mistakes. And, you know, sometimes they don't, because right now, from what we're seeing, PS4 to PS5 looks to be kind of jumbled and stumbling with, like, stupid things like backwards compatibility. So they're not the only ones to do it, but they're also they're the hard-headed ones to constantly not fix their mistakes and learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, well, our favorite Nintendo consoles, the NES and the Super Nintendo. For anybody who knows us, these are not surprises. We rant about these consoles very often.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, and next week we'll try to do the PlayStation, moving on with Xbox, and then ending it off with Sega. And Sega's going to be a very interesting one for both of us. I'm curious to see how we play off, because again, there's a lot of Sega consoles, first off, people don't even know about. So... And once you factor in the Sega CD and the 32X, I'll forget about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm excited for that one. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys, another episode of the NeoVintage podcast down the drain. Episode 16. We'll be back with you guys next week for a whole new episode. This is Jabril, and I am with
Steve,
and this is the NeoVintage podcast. See you guys.
Take care.